and welcome to another evenly toasted episode of Midlife Krisis. None of that hot on the outside, warm on the... Well, no. It's hot on the outside, cool on the inside.
All right, do it over. Do the intro over.
You're
I know
right.
you were up
You're
all
right.
night.
Incorrect. No, I'm a normal adult. I'm a grown adult.
Okay. Right.
And we'll just leave that right on the table. So today, well, although you made the segue, and maybe it should be something that we talk about, because we are going to be discussing multiplayer gaming.
Yes. And which of us is not an adult when it comes to that?
Right. Which is very firmly in the
That would be
camp.
That would
yeah.
be. I'm not an adult when it comes to
Right.
gaming in general or multiplayer gaming in particular. Very true.
Yeah. Well, self-control is something that eludes all of us in different levels of life. Mm-hmm. I'll say this until I'm blue in the face. It's better to stay up till 5 in the morning playing video games versus doing crack cocaine. Write that down, kids. Write that down. But anyway, yes, multiplayer gaming, and we're making jokes. We're playing ha-ha, but it is a stone-cold fact that you were up until 5 in the morning last night playing multiplayer.
We're getting a late start today.
A little bit of a late start. But talk me through that, and then maybe we can find little branches to jump off of in terms of multiplayer gaming and all that other stuff. But because this is in the now, this is ever present. What were you doing until 5 in the a.m. last night, Mr. Bear?
Right. So I had asked for this episode because I wanted to talk about this because lately I've been doing a slew of multiplayer games with my friends.
Naturally.
And it's a particular type of multiplayer game. It is not the standard PvP stuff. It's largely been PvE stuff. And I've been having such a good time with it that I wanted to talk about it on the show. Last night, we played a little bit of Helldivers, which we've talked about on the show a lot. Helldivers is rapidly fading out of the public consciousness as player counts continue to dwindle and everybody seems to hate the balance changes to the game. But the core gameplay loop itself remains incredibly fun, and especially fun if you're playing it with your friends. And then separately from that, we've been playing Deep Rock Galactic, which is another PvE game that you play co-op with friends, and it came out in, I think, 2000 maybe. And the gimmick there actually very similar.
Whoa. It came out in the year 2000?
Sorry, 2020.
See, I was like, that's my gimmick. I play games.
Your interest peaks up.
I was like, whoa, yeah. Right? Is this on Dreamcast, or what are we doing here? You had me excited, and it's like, no, it's just some stupid shit PC game. Yeah. God damn it.
Very similar to Helldivers in that you go to a place and you kill bugs. Actually, it's the same enemy type.
Yes.
Except it's asteroids in space as opposed to bugs on a planet.
So like you're like mining asteroids and getting them smaller and smaller. That kind of a deal.
That part of it would be really cool if you got them smaller and smaller, but you're really just going into asteroids and you're mining them, and then you're trying to extract from the asteroid with the resources that you mine. And you're dwarves, so it's like you're space dwarves.
Oh, yeah, that checks a lot of boxes right there.
Yeah, right. But anyway, like super fun. And then the third game we've been playing is Sea of Thieves, which also is kind of old now at this point. I think that came out in like 2018 or 19, something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
But also a lot of fun. So recently, and I'm going to say this has been going on for a few months now, I just have been introduced to different people in my life that all like to play these games, and we've been all getting on comms and then just playing until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And
for the record, I have not vetted any of these individuals. So if there's any chicanery that comes up, not my fault. They have not been patted down. They've not been vetted. I'll just leave that there.
I haven't vetted them either, except to the extent that they're really good at video games.
Well, that's all you need. Sometimes that's exactly just all that you need.
And fun to talk to. But for me, and the reason I really want to do this is because it's made me so happy and joyous. Because it's a throwback to when I was an actual early adult child, playing games in the early 2000s when all this was brand new, whether it was Counter-Strike and you're on comms with people, or my favorite game of all time, World of Warcraft, and you're in a guild playing with people. And as you get older, you tend to have fewer and fewer people around you, and you tend to have less and less time to sit until 4 o'clock in the morning and play video games. However, I have willed myself into doing this at the expense of
health
My work product,
work
product,
productivity,
yeah.
Many things.
Tardiness with various appointments that I have, family relations, mental health. But anyway, the point is,
right.
But for some minor compromises along the way,
yes,
I've been having a great time as a throwback to what it was like when I was growing up doing these things, and I'm going to hold on to it as long as I can, as tightly as I can, for as long as it's possible to do it. And I thought, well, this is probably something I should talk to Brian about, because I really think this is like a very uniquely me thing, and that you're not really a multiplayer gamer at all that way.
Well, I go in fits and starts. The game that I probably played the most online in my life was probably the original Modern Warfare, so Call of Duty 4 back in 2000, and I think it came out end of 2007. And that game, there's a reason why it defined first-person shooters for, up until now. The progression of it was as addicting as you can possibly get for a gameplay loop. And this is still before the mass injection of like DLC and all that other stuff. So you would play and then get up to a rank, and when you got to another rank, you unlocked crap. So guns, skins, all that kind of stuff. Yep. And this was all still nice and free, baby. And I played on PS3, which the entirety of the PS3's online was free. That was a big selling point way back when the competitor was Xbox Live. There was no fee on PSN back then. Those days are long gone.
Those halcyon days.
I just paid $80 to use ringers in Elden Ring. Because that's the only thing I do online, basically, these days. But yeah, I played a shit ton of Call of Duty 4. Really, really enjoyed it. That series, as it kind of gained in popularity, the skill was brought up, which kind of left me out in a lurch, because I'm playing on a dual analog controller, and you're playing against people with keyboard and mouse, and that's in addition to the fact that I'm not super good at video games. But yeah, I mean, we talked about it in our competition episode. Like, as a person, I put no stake at all into competition. So PvP stuff, with the exception of like fighting games and some like high score chasing, I couldn't be bothered with it. Now PvE though, that shit does interest me quite a bit. And so I'll say, you're right in that I'm not the biggest online multiplayer player in the world. Call of Duty. So one thing I did want to mention when you were talking, and I thought about this, I, like everyone else, when COVID happened, like that stuff really shot up.
That was
like,
your only social interaction.
Yeah, 100%. So like, even though it's not a game that you would care for or anything like that, but like I hung out with my family playing Animal Crossing. I have hundreds of hours in Animal Crossing. And we would do like full-on events, like I'm having a barbecue on my island, come on down. I even one time did like I actually like really spent a lot of time in this, but I made like a scavenger hunt on my island where like
I know this story. This is great.
Oh, it was great. No, like I planned out like this whole thing and like incorporated little elements on the island, like using like the what's it called, the pattern editor. So I made like maps and all kinds of shit and like designed this like adventure game type of a thing using Animal Crossing, and I invited friends over to do it, and then like I had a prize at the end. Whoever solved it in the fastest amount of time, like I gave them like a really cool piece of furniture or whatever the fuck it was.
That's a great story.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it is and it isn't. I guess we define great stories a little differently. But no, like COVID, and then another thing I did a lot during COVID was play. Speaking of games that came out in the year 2000, so. The Dreamcast is you can still play games online.
Yeah,
that's a thing.
It's incredible.
And so you buy a Raspberry Pi that has an image that's on there, and that's called Dream Pi, and it connects to like this privately owned server, and almost all of the Dreamcast's online games are playable, including the big dog, which is Phantasy Star Online, which is like really the first console MMO. And it's calling it an MMO is really it's kind of Monster Hunter is what it is. Like you're basically playing a Monster Hunter game. But they called it an MMO back then just because you were online and you chatted with a keyboard. But I did that with a close friend for every night for a long period of time until we beat it. Because you could beat, there was an ending to Phantasy Star Online. And then once you beat it, you just did the whole thing all over again. So did that quite a bit. And then I'd say most recently I got into Halo Infinite when that first came out, and that's like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So for me, for my bread and butter, I like first-person shooters online if I'm going to play a game online. But then to take it up to the modern times, I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring online, but that is a very asymmetric type of experience, which is one of the reasons why I love it so much. No chat, nobody talks, which is great.
Your absolute disdain for humanity is perfectly preserved.
Yeah, and it's an Elden Ring, which is like this super left-hand path, like death metal game to begin with. Oh God, one major thing that I have beaten you up on this show countless times for this.
I feel the word monsters coming.
Monster is indeed coming. I'll say this on the record. Monster Hunter is the most fun I've ever played, or most fun I've had ever playing a game online ever, and nothing comes even close to that glass ceiling, so to speak. I cannot wait for the new Monster Hunter game to come out.
Yeah. Me either.
Yeah, well, I'm holding you to that, sir. It's just so much fun, and I played that with a friend of the show, the Good Prince, and then I would say a good 30% of the time we played with the Party Bison. So it was the Prince and the Party Bison was our death trio on Monster Hunter Rise.
Who would not want to play
in
a group with a Prince and a Party Bison?
Thank you very much. And ironically enough, we did that all on the Nintendo Switch, which we always talk shit on its online features.
The least functional online experience.
The least functional online experience was like the one that I probably sunk. Well, actually, if you combine the amount of times that we've played the Luigi's Mansion games online together, the amount of time I spent playing Animal Crossing online together with not you, but like other friends and family, and then the amount of time I played Monster Hunter online, all of it has been on the Switch.
Yeah.
And it's crazy the amount of hours I put into this online service that is not good, not great in terms of reliability and connectivity. But it worked. So yeah, for me, like it's got to be like a special thing. That the Dreamcast thing is like a very, that's right in line for. It checks so many boxes for me to play that stuff online.
There was one night where I was communicating with somebody who I hadn't talked to you in a while, and I think they had reached out to you via text to be like, "Hey man, we need to catch up," something like that. And then that person texted me back and was like, "Yeah, I reached out to Brian because we haven't caught up in a while." And he told me he was playing Phantasy Star Online.
Yeah.
and he goes, "It's very on brand for Brian."
Yeah. You know what? If I could, just before you move on, I have it reminded me of a great story about Phantasy Star Online. Well, great / maybe crushingly sad, depending on your point of view. I'll say it's great.
I'll probably say it's great.
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't know. Maybe as a father you won't. I don't know. Anyway, I knew a guy. Used to be friends with, no longer friends with him. It's one of those, showing your true colors kind of a thing. I haven't been friends with this guy for years, but he, let's say, had several personality issues, we'll say nicely. That dude ruined his life playing Phantasy Star Online. Which
Tell
is
me more.
Well, here's what's crazy. Like, everyone hears the story. Your favorite game of all time, World of Warcraft. Everyone has heard some stories about somebody ruining their life or ruining their child's life through neglect playing that game.
Staying up till 5 a.m. playing. Ignoring every other part of their life. Oh, I know. Those people are the worst.
You are nothing if not self-aware, dear friend. So yeah, this dude, and okay, when going back to World of Warcraft, like World of Warcraft, admittedly, it's not my game. It never was my game, but like you'd have to be a fool not to look at that game and see all of like the social features and the evolution of same and. Just there was a lot to do in that game, and it was designed in a way to do exactly that, like connect people, keep them hooked, keep them going, building relationships, all that kind of stuff. In Phantasy Star Online, you played with 4 people, tops, and the only time you would interact with any other people was in this like really small, primitive like hub world area. And this dude, So during COVID, when I played a lot of Phantasy Star Online, I was kind of like thinking about how could that have happened? Now, all things considered, it's the year 2000, so like this is very fresh and new at the time.
Yeah.
So like that's worth mentioning, but still, it's like, and I'm not sure. I really really enjoyed Phantasy Star Online. I think it's a super fun experience, and it holds up incredibly well today in terms of like a fun action RPG that you can play with a friend online. But like this dude like literally dropped out of school. Like he would, and I am not picking on you today. I'm not picking on you.
I finished school. I'll have you know.
You finished several schools.
Yeah.
But he would stay up routinely. He would stay up until the sun came up, sleep all day, and I mean all day. Like you sleeping until noon it's adorable. It's funny to do in your mid 40s. But this guy would sleep until like straight up, like dinner time, like wake up and like mommy would have like his dinner ready, and then he would sit there, shovel food in his mouth, and then waste his life again.
What a life! What a life! Tell me more about this hero.
Again, this is a glass half full, glass half empty scenario here. But yeah, and at the time, I really didn't get Phantasy Star Online. Like I would hang out with this friend every once in a while. I'd watch him play a little bit here and there. And at that time, it just no MMO clicked with me at all ever. And this one, at that time, I dabbled with like a free SegaNet trial type thing and played it, and it just wasn't for me. Shenmue is for me, okay? The Phantasy Star Online at that time wasn't for me. But fast forward 20 years, and it was like, oh, okay, this is like the right time with the right person to do this thing, and I really got into it. But yeah, to me, it's just the dark side of I guess playing multiplayer and having no self-control. Like the straight up, this dude ruined friendships, ruined his life, like never got it back on track, and it was largely due to Phantasy Star Online for the Sega Dreamcast.
So that is a really good point and a really fair point, and it makes me think of several different things. The first one is, we all bring our own psychoses into our gaming experiences, and we did an episode about competition in gaming, where I described feeling like there's people in the room pointing at me whenever I lose in a PvP game. And that was especially true when I was in my early 20s and I was like the most competitive, and then it sort of waned. And now I just stay away from it altogether. So when I'm talking about, the theme of this episode is multiplayer gaming, but PvP gaming, it's really not multiplayer gaming the way that I mean it for this episode. It's really PvE focused, at least my contributions to the episode.
And if you don't know, I'll just do this real quickly because we have some oldies that watch this show. PvE is player versus everybody, and PvP is player versus player, so more head-to-head competitive stuff.
Yes.
So I'll just throw that out.
Well, I always thought PvE is player versus environment.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Oh boy.
Okay. Yeah, somebody's gonna have to do a
caveat. It's player versus environment and/or player versus everybody. Yeah. Ow!
And you can even
Stone Cold, that's what I know about.
And then a game like Sea of Thieves is technically PvPvE because there's both NPC players to go deal with, and then also other pirating players in the game.
So go back to your original point, but put a bookmark in Sea of Thieves because I have some questions about that game.
Okay. So the original point was to say that if you can moderate yourself, then the multiplayer experiences and the benefits of doing PvE, which is just easier, and the way PvP is set up, you're supposed to lose 50% of the time. A good PvP game has everything balanced, and everything being balanced means that you're playing people who are at your skill level, and therefore you're losing half the time, you're winning half the time. And in practice, that sucks. It feels bad because it means that 50% of the time you play the game, you're mad because you lost.
Yes.
And that's why games like League of Legends and Dota and all those games have such bad reputations and such toxic communities. You're playing with other people on your team, but you're losing half the time, and obviously
they get to blame you.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, or you get to blame them,
right.
And you feel bad because like I only lost because of my dumb teammates.
Right.
So in PvE, it's significantly different. It's just the AI. You can be mad at the computer if you want to. I have been so many times.
So many times.
So many times, but it's a different experience. However, okay, so with all that out of the way, one of the problems with any kind of multiplayer gaming, and it's what you just brought up, you really can lose yourself to it. And in recent years, because again, I've particularized expertise on this because my mind is set to be that person, to be that junkie.
Right.
In fact, we opened this episode with me sounding like an absolute gaming junkie, being up till 5 a.m. Sorry, I can't. I'm going to be late for filming, Brian.
And I'm just sitting here like this with lights on, Microphone on, just
Camera's ready.
he'll be here. He'll be here. Sure he will. And we'll talk about multiplayer gaming. Okay. Oh boy.
Right. So in recent years, I've tried to get away from stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like Hearthstone is sort of, I mean, that's more PvP, but that's sort of another example. It's like you play that and then you only play that.
Yeah.
And there's so many games out there. You like play all the games. So one side of this is that part of it. There's so many games and so many great experiences that you can have. You don't want to pigeon yourself into one, and all these PvP games are geared to just have you play only that game, basically, over and over and over again to just get everything. And that there's a danger in that. The flip side of that, and this is what I've come to realize recently, and then this is part of the inspiration for this episode, is that especially when you're me at this age right now, I've got kids, I've got a mortgage, I've got a wife, I've got a career, I've got all these things. And this is the time when all of that stuff, the gaming in the past, the LAN parties, the all-nighters, all that's in the past. And then you wax nostalgic about it. And you say like, oh, remember those old days. And because of what I've been able to do recently, I'm getting a little time machine into the old days. And I haven't been divorced yet. And my home is
if not self-aware.
And my home is not being foreclosed on yet, right? And I've not been sanctioned by any judges yet. And as long as I can maintain this balance and only compromise sleep.
Sure. You sound a lot like a 1980s stand-up comedian, by the way. Oh, I'll just keep everything under control and it'll just be fine. I can sleep when I'm dead.
I'm realizing that my defense and justification of this is just not the best.
Yeah.
I literally argue for a living. Setting myself up for so much failure.
And it's not like there's going to be a public record of this conversation or anything.
So everybody out there, if you're in your mid-40s, just stop sleeping.
Right.
Find some friends. Play some PvE multiplayer games.
Yes.
And you will get to feel like you're in your 20s again, at least all night.
Again. We're going down a bad road here.
And sure, when you wake up in the morning, you might think you have to go to a hospital.
Yeah. That's future Robby's problem.
But you future Robby's problem. So again, the point of the episode is I'm doing everything right.
Got it. Yeah. I'm titling this episode, He's Doing Everything Right. ... multiplayer gaming.
And yes, we're having a really, really wonderful time. And it's been fantastic.
Yes.
So just wanted to get that out there. I get to feel like a kid again.
Yes.
With some minor opportunity costs along the way, some light trade-offs.
Yeah.
But the upshot is, I don't know if this will be the last. Well, I'll say this on a slightly more serious note. Whenever this has happened before, and whenever it happens in general, when you have people that you're playing with and it's a really good time, and there's memes about this online, you have that person that you play with on Xbox Live and you only know them on Xbox Live, and then one day they just don't log in, and you play with them every day, and then that one day it's like, oh, wow, that's weird, they didn't log in today. And then 6 years later, it shows the screen cap, and it's like last online 1,000, 1,500 days or whatever. And in fact, I could tie this into me and you, because this happened to me for a while. For a long time, the only time you had ever logged into Steam ever was to play the Portal 2 co-op levels with me. And then you never played it for years after the fact. And because of that, when I would go onto Steam, you were on my friends list, and it would say, hasn't logged in in however...
1,000 days.
Yeah, and it was sort of depressing because it was like, oh, this is how long it's been since Brian and I were having that fun together. And
it's like a reminder, a dated reminder of
the slow march of time and all of that. And so this moment in my life is eventually going to pass. People are going to get jobs, they're going to get into relationships, they're going to just move on to other games, whatever. And then it's going to be gone. And then I'm going to look back and then say, oh, remember those days that we were playing Helldivers and Deep Rock Galactic and we were chatting and we were playing till 5 a.m. And then it's just going to be over. And so as long as it's not over yet, I want to hold on to it for as long as I can, as tight as I can, while not ruining the rest of my life, doing the best I can.
Right, yeah. Life is a tit-for-tat type of trade-off.
Yeah. Because as long as I don't have to compromise too much anything else, then I'll be happy that I made these decisions that I did to embrace this while I could. Because to be honest, I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to have a moment like this in my life again, where I get to feel like I'm, in my 20s. Imagine like you could just freaking go back to college and then just like go live in a dorm for 6 months. Maybe that's a bad example.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Nope. What I like to do is go to bed at a responsible time, wake up in the morning, enjoy daylight, and what the vitamin D does for me, and my happiness and all those good things. And then, be in bed by like 11:15, have a nice balanced breakfast.
This guy.
What a clown. What a clown.
Oh, man, get real.
I get it. I will say, so to piggyback off of your thing, and then I want to ask some questions about some of these games you're playing. But I get exactly what you're talking about in terms of like because look, video games are a social thing. It's actually like a social, antisocial thing. But let's focus on the social side for now. It is really fun to play games with your friends. There's no question about it. When you and I and the Prince get together and
Luigi's Mansion,
and we get shoulder to shoulder and we just suck with our guy friends, it's a really good time.
Diablo 4 we had a good time with.
But by the way, are we playing that anymore? Because I kind of need space on my Xbox, and that thing is like 90 gigabytes.
What? Whenever you want. Have I not been clear about this? I am available all the time. You want to play today? We will play today.
See, that is the challenge, though, is like, I can't say, for whatever reason, I used to be able to stay up late regularly when I was younger, and now I just can't do it. Like, now granted, I haven't tried, because I'm not willing to roll the same dice that you are. I'll roll some other dice. Don't get me wrong, but not these dice.
Mr. Straight Edge over here is like, on the straight and narrow all the time. That's
what Grimes from is it Grimey from The Simpsons? Yeah. That's me with the unibrow. No, but I mean like I would love to be able to play more online games, but I think the twofold thing is like I can't stay up late anymore, and then like. This is kind of the fact, and I don't know if this is just maybe this all happened to us because of COVID, or maybe it's just the way I'm aging. But for me, like I lack the attention span to be able to sit there and play one game for like my limit is like 2 hours. Like
this is news to me, actually. Finish this point. I don't think I knew this about you.
So yeah, like when the Prince and I were playing Monster Hunter, and again, that's a game that I'm like all the way like loaded in on, right? Like, I could only do about 2 hours tops. Very occasionally, we could stretch it to, like, 3.
You put a lot of time into Zelda and Elden Ring, so I'll just use those games specifically. Are you telling me that you put your 100 hours into those games in 2-hour sessions?
There was a couple times playing Elden Ring where I was definitely hitting, like, 3 hours, for sure.
But no longer than that?
No longer than that, yeah. Maybe one day... Maybe 1 4-hour in there.
Wow, you're blowing my mind right now.
Yeah, no, but so that's the thing is like, again, and I don't know, like, because okay, so I think this happened to a lot of us, like, who got COVID during the dark times, but like that's like a common thing, like it has affected attention spans. But I can't remember before if I still had that kind of attention span. By and large, like the way I consume games, though, like I'm. Like right there, well, you can't see it on this shot, but I've got a Nintendo with a red cartridge in it that has fucking like 8,000 games on it. And it's kind of hard, and maybe I've kind of always been this way, but it's really hard for me to just sit there and like, I've got to be really, really, really into something to devote like my maximum amount of attention to a game. Because I've always had a tendency to, I've owned all the systems as they come out. Yeah. Like, I just like to bounce around and play different games, different genres, all that other stuff.
So when you're doing your EverDrive and you're playing those Nintendo games, are you doing, like, it's like 15 minutes, I'll check this out, and then you bounce to the next one?
Well, this is a little bit of foreshadowing, because I am going to talk in depth about this wonderful device that is now, like, almost 10 years old. But I finally got one on that system. I've got many other EverDrives. But one of the coolest features about this thing, and people get a little gatekeepery about retro games. It's part of the deal. A lot of people are all like, I will only play an old game the way it is supposed to be played from beginning.
The actual cartridge, and then
well, in like a session. So
Oh, yeah.
with the EverDrive, it's got save states in the cartridge. So
okay,
imagine you as a 9-year-old
Yeah.
playing NES and being
Right.
able to save anywhere you want at any time and going back to it.
when I modded my PSP for the first time and then
Yeah.
was downloading emulators,
Yeah, so
I
exactly.
actually got to beat all these like impossible games.
Yeah, because save
Battletoads.
states. Gotcha. Yeah, you're done. You're
Teenage
done.
Mutant Ninja Turtles at water level. We got this.
So yeah, so save states have been around in emulators for years, but to actually be able to do that on real hardware
Yeah.
with the original controller, it's just, to me, like, it's fucking time traveling, and I love it. But that's how I do it. Like, I'll play 10 minutes of Deja Vu for NES or something, and then save my game, and now I'm gonna hit up Darkwing Duck. Save my game. Now I'm playing some weird porny hack of Super Mario Brothers 2 or
As you
whatever
do,
it is.
yeah.
As one does, exactly. But that's. I like to bounce around from mini games, and like I always have a backlog. I'm always playing multiple games at the same time. I do think that is an attention span thing that I've always had, but I have noticed post COVID, my attention span is shittier. And I don't know if that's just like a byproduct of like long COVID or whatever the fuck it is, but
Dude, when
who knows?
Pikmin 4 came out, I put in, I'm going to say several, as in like a minimum of 5 sessions that were between 8 and 10 hours into that.
Yeah, I can't do it. And let me be crystal clear here. There's nothing wrong with spending an entire day playing Pikmin 4.
I know.
I would never
Yeah.
cross that line. That is just a fact. I'm saying I physiologically can't do it. Like I'll have to get up and do something else or whatever it is. And then that obviously I think affects the way I'm able to, or I'm not able to play multiplayer games, because you do have to put in like a bunch of time to be able to get something out of those types of games.
Friends like, I'm at my limit, guys. It's
Yeah.
been 90 minutes. I need a break.
Yes.
I'll come back in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And we'll play again.
I need to watch wrestling on YouTube or I'm going to die. So I have to see Percy Pringle talk in his glorious high-pitched tones, or will not be able to sleep at night.
And that I understand.
Yeah. Well, of course.
Every aspect of that sentence I relate to.
Yeah.
That's why I have multiple monitors.
Right.
You put Percy on one.
Yeah. Percy over here, and then you've got Helldivers front and center. And then on the right, you've got a rolling ticker of all these sports scores and all this other shit. Constant feed of data, of course. Yeah. But yeah, I think that that's something, I guess, in a sick kind of way, it's a gift that you have, that you're able to like put a bunch of time into one thing, because you are in multiplayer gaming, whether you're playing an MMO competitively or within a group doing shit together. Like I do think that you're naturally going to be able to pull more out of it that way than you would if you're playing. You can't play Sea of Thieves for like 15 minutes, or maybe you can. I don't know. You tell me.
No, you cannot.
Okay.
You cannot. You have to make kind of a time commitment to play, and then there's kind of a barrier of entry that you have to get over to sort of figure out the mechanics of the game, and everybody has to have psychological buy-in to the game, because there is usually an initial part of it where it's like you're figuring out the mechanics of the game, but then also figuring out how to play it with other people. So there's an extra layer of learning that you have to do. And so to take Sea of Thieves in particular, I played that game one time with the producer of the show and with the Prince, and we just didn't have a good time. And we were kind of figuring it out. We didn't really know what to do. And he didn't play again after that, and I don't blame him, because I didn't really want to play it after that either. However, the editor of this show, Wonder Mundo, was giving me the hard sell on that game. And I started playing it with him, and he really knows the game well. And then we had some other people who knew the game well. And we started doing things together, and all of a sudden we started succeeding at those things. And then the first time you succeed at something in the game, like, oh, okay, there's a MacGuffin out there, and we got the MacGuffin. And then so now we feel accomplished because we worked together and we accomplished the thing. And that felt really neat. And then we basically built off of that.
So in Sea of Thieves, now again, everything I'm about to say, I'm putting it in my Monster Hunter filter, because what you just said lit that siren spinning, screaming. Because for me, what I love about Monster Hunter is you get together with your buds and you work together and you slay a giant monster.
Actually, so this is so funny because I haven't played Monster Hunter and you haven't played Sea of Thieves. So this is like, total trying to relate to each other.
Yeah.
So in Sea of Thieves, the only accomplishments that you get when you defeat certain things, you get gold and you buy cosmetics with them. There's no actual progression in terms of your power as a player character. Is that the same thing in Monster Hunter? Is the whole game just like we're trying to find this big monster and then take it out, and then once we do that, maybe you get an achievement for it, which would work for me. But other than that, there's no like gameplay progression.
Oh no, there's absolutely game progression.
Okay.
So the way it works in Monster Hunter is you level up. Okay, and again, caveat: the Monster Hunter game I played by far the most of is Rise. The other games before Rise, just a couple hours here and there just to try them out, and they never hooked me like Rise did. What hooked me about Rise was the mobility, like using the grappling hook mechanic and then riding on your pet dog. Made the game infinitely better because you can get around so much quicker, and it gives it a faster, more twitchy arcade-like feel to it, which is that's what I give a fuck about when it comes to video games.
Yeah.
But so you level up in a level like all the time, every single time, just for that thing. So you run around, you find these little like critters, and you'll get like buffs on your strength, buffs on your health, all that stuff. All that stuff goes away as soon as that whatever stage you're in is over, and you have to repeat that process or not. The choice is yours. But when you kill the monsters, and then you have the option of trapping them, which gives you like a certain set of items, or you have the option of brutally murdering them for their skin, and you get to make stuff out of their stuff, right?
Okay.
And so there's this huge, super in-depth weapon tree where like if you build this one weapon, it opens up another like leg of the tree, and so you can kind of find what your goal is in terms of like I want this kind of a build for a weapon, and you kind of navigate the tree and you fight specific monsters to get specific drops to build those things. Those weapons and how strong they are and how much you can grind to level those things up, that's permanent. And you can also do the same thing with armor, and you can upgrade your armor and all of that stuff. So
yeah, that sounds way better than Sea of Thieves. I need to check this out. What did you say this game is called?
It's
Monster something?
Called Monster Squad. It's a real good movie from the 80s.
It totally is.
Has some challenging lines of dialogue today. We'll say that.
Oh, man.
We'll say it's some challenging lines of dialogue for today's audiences. But no, yeah, Monster Hunter is okay. You open the door. You're a fool. You're a plumb fool for ignoring us and our pleas to get you to ride along in our murderous squad of monster killing and hunting.
So what we call irony is the fact that this game is about this episode is about multiplayer gaming, and specifically my recent obsession with multiplayer gaming, which takes me back to my obsession with multiplayer gaming as a child.
Yeah.
And one of the best multiplayer experiences out there is one that you have experienced that I willingly foregoed.
And I will never forget the reasons why. It was to play the original Uncharted on the highest difficulty for a fake trophy.
It's not fake. It's on my account. What are you talking about?
The look of rage.
Absolute disdain. Sorry, who do you think you are? How dare you?
Total actual disdain right now when I said fake trophy.
Look, there are lines, guy. You don't. I mean, it's all fun and games here, but let's not.
You're right. I take my horrific comment off the table. Right. But yeah, that was you were playing a game. You're doing something you didn't enjoy doing, while me and the Good Prince were fundamentally changing the way we perceive fun.
Oh man.
Okay, why don't we do this, Uncle Bob? Let's put a pin in this one because I think we can stretch. We can do another part all in multiplayer gaming because I want to ask you a little bit more about Sea of Thieves, but I also want to talk about like our illustrious gaming histories. What are some of the most fun? Obviously, mine's going to be Monster Hunter Rise in that wheelhouse. But let's talk about some multiplayer experiences from the past. What's some of our favorite shit? All that good stuff. But before we sign off, we're on Spotify. Please like, subscribe, leave comments, episode suggestions, all that good stuff right here on the Midlife Krisis channel on YouTube. And we will come on right on back with part 2 of multiplayer gaming. Go ahead and sign us off there, Uncle Bob. Right there, that's your camera. Right over here.
Bye.